This meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. I'm going to call a roll to welcome everybody. I'm going to call a roll to establish who's here. Commissioner Killeen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Vines, are you here?
Here.
Alderman Vaccaro, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Here.
Did I overlook anybody? Okay, and I am here. Commissioners, look through the agenda. Is there any objection to starting with the special agenda items?
None.
Okay, then I think we will do that. And does anybody object to that being our agenda? Hearing none, that will be our agenda. We do not have minutes to approve that I can see. So there. Before I entertain a motion on F, G, H, and I, Bethany, got something to say about agenda item F. Thank you.
Agenda item F. Do you want me to go to the picture?
Fine, right there.
Let me find the picture. It's at the end. Do you want me to bring the picture up or no?
Doesn't matter. Just tell us what you want to tell us.
Okay. Agenda item F is for the nomination to the National Register of the Kings Highway Commercial District, Kings Highway Hills Commercial District, at 3701 to 3835 South Kings Highway Boulevard. And it consists of 12 contributing buildings along Kings Highway, along two city blocks bordered by Thalozin and Chippewa. They are highly embellished and exhibit detailed craftsmanship such as the decorative cornices, terracotta-clad shaped parapets, coin surrounds, inlaid terracotta panels, and decorative details near the roof line, surrounding doors, and emphasize primary entrance bays. They're beautiful examples of the Spanish Revival style, and it's a beautiful district.
You seem to know a lot about it. Why is that?
I am very partial to this area of the city.
Because?
Because I live there. But it is on our recommendation that the Preservation Board should direct the staff to prepare a report for the State Historic Preservation Office that the property does meet the requirements for National Register Criteria C under architecture.
Commissioners, the preparers are largely present, and we have Bethany here. Do you have any questions on any of these? If not, Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
Yeah, I move that the Preservation Board should direct the staff to prepare a report for the State Historic Preservation Office that the respective properties meet the criteria of the National Register. With respect to item F on the agenda, it would be a National Register Criteria C. With respect to item G on the agenda, it would be National Register Criteria C. With respect to item H on the agenda, it would be National Register Criteria A. And with respect to item I on the agenda, it would be National Register Criteria A.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, let's proceed with our agenda. Agenda item A is 5206 Washington Place.
I have to recuse, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Commissioner Killeen, for the record, has recused himself. Also, there is no one listed here to speak.
Oh, that would be me. Sorry.
Okay.
If I may.
Proceed.
Dan Krasnoff, Director of Cultural Resources for the city, and this is 5206 Washington Avenue. I will say the first picture on your agenda for this staff report says 5206, which is right. I thought that was wrong at one point. Anyway, on with the show. So staff recommendation is preliminary approval for the project I'm about to describe. I have a message of support from the Central West End Planning and Development Committee led by Mr. Jim Dwyer. It's at least a letter of non-opposition, I guess I should more accurately state. So, so this is the building at 5206 Washington. It's a early 20th century, late 19th century single-family home. The proposal today that you're going to see is to build a carriage house behind this building. So we just saw the front building there, which is in tan in the parcel encircled by the red dashes, and then the dark square behind it is where the carriage house would go. This is a picture of the backyard. So to our right is that building we just saw the picture of from the front, the 5206 building. This is an aerial view. Again, the building, the square with the dot in it that says project location is the project location. This building is at the corner of Lake and Lake in Washington. Lake is a north-south street that is open to pedestrian traffic but is closed to auto traffic through this area. Here's a site plan showing the existing building on the right and the proposed carriage house on the left. This is an image or a drawing of the east elevation. This is the one that will face the street directly, face Lake Avenue. This is an image of the north facade, which will face the house, the back of the house that we've been seeing pictures of. This is the facade along the alley, elevation along the alley. And this is the west elevation. Here's a rendering of the building. It's going to be done in yellow brick to match the house in the front. It has some corbelling between the first and second stories, and then it has a kind of simple cornice up above. The one, although the staff is recommending support, the one detail that I do think could use some more thought is the porch that you see in this picture. It just didn't strike me that this is terribly, has a lot of very much design quality to it. And I think some more thought on that would be helpful. This is a street elevation. So on the left is the garage / carriage house across the alley for the house that faces, that would be Westminster. Then in the center you have the carriage house we're looking at today, and then the large house up front on the street at the corner. This is looking at the house on the right is the main house, the backyard where the carriage house will go, and then you can kind of see the shadow of the houses that face onto Westminster. I apologize for how dark this was. I meant to lighten this up, but didn't get to it. This is looking south on Lake Avenue at the east side of Lake, and then that corner is the corner of Lake and Westminster. Again, another very dark slide. This is directly across the street from where the carriage house would go. The building that you see in the middle of the screen is the house across the street, across Lake Avenue from the main house we're looking at today. And then this is looking north towards the corner of Lake and Washington. You can see in the foreground is the house that will be in front of the carriage house, and in the background on the left is the house across from that at the northwest corner of Washington and Lake. And again, here we are back at the front of the house with the carriage house going behind this one along Lake Avenue. In terms of the standards, to be quite honest, the Central West End standards do not really speak directly to this kind of carriage house development. Clearly, the standards were written more for single-family homes and larger homes. So there's much that complies and sort of things that are not applicable. There's language about low-rise buildings and high-rise buildings, and this building is kind of neither. The standards say that a building must be within 15% of the height of buildings around it. If they're short, but obviously a carriage house is a different kind of house or property from the large homes that front on the street. At any rate, in terms of materials, it complies because it's brick. There's a section on decks. It doesn't really talk about porches or balconies, which is probably more like. Your staff report says the design of the deck requires greater design consideration due to its visibility from the street. And that about wraps up my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Questions on this side? Questions on this side? Thank you very much. The architect is present. Do we have questions for the architect? Alderman, questions for the architect?
No.
Okay. Randy, have you got a motion?
I move that Preservation Board approve the proposed carriage house. On the condition that the second-story porch design is revised and subject to review of final documents, details, and materials by the Cultural Resources Office.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Commissioners, we're going to take a 1-minute break and then reconvene to hear appeals. Council, you know there's a quorum present? You okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do agenda item E, which is an appeal of a director's denial to retain 2 garage doors installed at 1722 to 30 South 9th Street. Ms. Gagan, will you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Andrea Gagan with Cultural Resources Office. And I need to enter into the record ordinance 64689 is amended by 64925 and ordinance 62382. This is our historic district ordinance. Right. This is, let me get the right spot here. This is 1722 to 30 South 9th Street. The garage, there are 2 garage doors that have been installed and openings at the north end of the building. And they were installed without a permit. It was stopped by the building inspector, and then the owners came in to apply for the permit. Let's see here. This is location. It's the corner of South 9th and Soulard. This is the 2. These are the 2 garage doors that were installed without a permit. They're black with. They're like a light gray tinted glass. This is just a more close-up view of the garage doors. And just a kind of a detail of what the garage doors look like. This is a photo of, the photo on the left is a photo of the building before it was renovated by Llewellyn's, I think like 2005 maybe. And at that time, the openings were concrete blocked in. And then the other picture on the right is a photograph of what it looked like basically after they renovated it. And this is just some context on the street. And then these are some other garage doors that are nearby that I believe both of these were garages. There really isn't, there's no information to suggest that the ones on 1722 to 30 were ever garages. I think they just want a garage door so they can open the area up. But I also have a letter from the alderman who is in support of the garage doors. The reason I put these up is because this, if we would have had a permit application and for some reason we did allow them to have garage doors at that location, these are more of the type of garage doors we would have allowed. It's more historic look, not, and the ones that are there now are much more contemporary. Cultural Resources asked that the board uphold this director's denial as the doors were installed without a permit and there were previously storefronts at this location, which once they're storefronts, it's required to replace them with storefronts. And the installed garage doors do not replicate historic garage doors.
Questions on this side? This cries out for a Vines question.
But, I mean, I guess I do have a question. Is the purpose, changing it to this garage door just to be able to just open it?
I believe so. I mean, the owner could probably speak to that.
But certainly not used
Or-
as a garage, I guess?
No, no.
Okay. That's all my question.
Commissioner Killeen,
No question.
Commissioner Richardson,
No questions.
Alderman?
Thank you.
Written letter from Jack Cody, so obviously
Oh, I know.
I'll support Jack.
Well, let's hear from the appellant. Scott.
Okay, well, a little history here.
What restaurant is this?
Llewellyn's.
Excellent.
I own the building and I own the business. When we went to Soulard Historic,
Did you bring chips?
I did not bring chips, sorry.
That one
You're
down.
more than welcome to go right after. Okay, so the main reason, or one of the main reasons, is we've replaced those wooden doors.
I'm sorry, I should have stopped you. Is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
We have replaced those current doors 3 times in 13 years. It takes a south or a west beating sun, rain. We can't keep the rotting for whatever reason. We've done different types of doors and tried to blend it in, and we finally needed something that was more bulletproof. I hate to say it, but wood is just not great there, and we like the wood look. But so we had Zumwalt come and quote that and do it. They were supposed to get a permit. Obviously, I'm standing here because they did not. So we had an architect draw it up to make sure it passed all codes, egress, all things that were safety related and all, which it is. But how we came up with this is we looked across the street at the place that you showed, which was never a garage. So, I'm just saying, I used to live in the 9th Street Abbey in the 80s and 90s, the rectory next to it. So I'm real familiar with the street, and so when we went to Soulard Restoration,
The little house in the alley?
no, it's the rectory next to it,
Okay.
1804 South.
Little alley house was cute.
So when we went there, they said they didn't know if it was garages or storefronts. So we wanted to, and we kicked around doing garage doors when we originally did it in '06. We decided, I don't know why, but we landed on doing doors all the way across. They all were operational, so it's very similar to what we kind of have here, except they're not doors. They go up, they don't go out. So when we decided to do this, we looked across the street at the place that serves pizza and has bar stools welded to the floor, which I don't think that's really historic either. And you can go back to that picture. It's the Epic Pizza place. So I guess we presumed that it looked like there were places down here that were doing it, and we did hire them, and they did not get the permit. I don't know why they didn't get the permit, because we paid them to do it, but they didn't. So we were kind of shocked, and obviously when we found out we didn't do the permit, we submitted everything we were supposed to on time with the letter. We own the building. We're very upfront about it. We weren't trying to be sneaky or anything. It just didn't happen. So that's kind of the backstory, if you will, behind it. I've only heard 100% positive things from the neighbors, the customers. They're like, it's great. It really adds to the street. The businesses across the street agree. Doesn't mean you will, but there's a lot of positivity about it, and it's been very impactful for us. So obviously we are asking for reconsideration because, well, we're kind of down the road here pretty far. So you know, that's kind of the backstory, if you needed it. That's kind of what happened and where we are, so I'm happy to answer any other questions that I missed, but that's the story.
You have support from the neighborhood organization? I saw Jack Kotar, but do you have a letter from Soulard Restoration?
You know, we talked to a couple of them, and they said everybody was happy with it. I didn't ask them to do it, and I can, but
And who was the architect?
Mark O'Brien apparently does a lot of stuff in the city, because I was recommended by the city, or got a list of.
And he never brought up that you were in a historic district that,
He did, but our building isn't historic. It was deemed not historic, so I don't know how that works, but when we went for tax credits, they turned us down, which was kind of a blow, because we were hoping to get some facade and some, you know, some type of help there. But again, we brought him in after it was done. So after we were told the permit wasn't done, then we hired him, because that's what we were required to do, so that's what we did, like I say, after
okay.
the fact.
Understood. Thank you.
So 13 years ago, we used somebody else when we originally did it, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Richardson?
I have no questions.
Alderman, question? Anything else you'd like to add for the record?
No, that's the story, so,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro, have you got a motion?
I would make a motion that the Preservation Board overrides the director's denial as the garage, I know they don't comply, but that we would override the denial and let the doors stay as they are.
Is there a second to that motion? Alderman, there is no second. Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
Well, I was going to say first, just maybe if you would amend your motion, if you, I'd support a second if it was overturning the denial contingent upon him getting a letter of support from the Soulard Restoration Committee group, or whatever they're called. What are they called there?
Restoration Group.
Soulard Restoration Group.
So I would amend my motion. I'm new at this, so I would amend, and thank you for, but yes, I would amend my motion.
Counselor, is that motion clear?
Yeah, I have a motion to override the director's denial contingent upon the applicant getting a letter of support from the Soulard Restoration Group. And a second from Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. Is there discussion?
I would be against this motion. I mean, this business owner's been there for a long time. Got to play by the rules. This window was, or this garage door was put in illegally. It does not match the historic character of the neighborhood, whether this building is eligible for tax credits or not. It doesn't belong in Soulard. So I'm against the amended
Commissioner
motion.
Vines, comment?
You know, this is one of those subjective things. I'm more inclined to agree with Commissioner Richardson, especially because it sounds to me like there's overwhelming support for the new doors that were installed. I am a little curious as to why the contractor failed to get the proper permits, but I guess that's neither here nor there at this point. I could be okay with leaving these doors in place as long as the neighborhood supports it.
But overwhelming support, we only got one letter.
Oh,
The rest is hearsay.
were there
Well,
any?
no, but the condition, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's okay. Yeah. If the Soulard Restoration Group, who I think has their finger on the pulse of the tenor of Soulard, if they can provide
If you
some
could put
support.
one more metaphor in there, that'd be like the trifecta.
Oh
of-
man, I don't even realize I'm doing that. But I would say that would be enough to make me comfortable to overturn the director's denial.
So the motion was that there be a letter of support from the Soulard Restoration Group. So it's contingent upon that there be a letter of support from the Soulard Restoration Group. And I guess my logic here is that it is, if it is a non-contributing building, and it is a business that's been there for a while, and we've had precedents before. I guess my recollection would be in Benton Park, we had Frazier's put in some illegal windows, and we cut them, we gave them a break. So if they have the support of the aldermen and they have the support of the Soulard Restoration Group, and it is a non-historic building, then I think they should be allowed to retain them.
Anything to add, Alderman?
No,
And noting that Commissioner Robinson is present. Commissioner, have you anything to add?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. I'm going to call a roll. Alderman Vaccaro, do you vote yes or no?
yes.
Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
No.
It is 3 yeses, 2 nos. The motion carries. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? So if I go get the letter, do I come back here, submit it, what, other than next time?
Great. You can either email it to me or bring it in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next agenda item C, an appeal of a director's denial to install 33 solar panels on the roof at 2647 Shenandoah Avenue. That's on a roof at 2647 Shenandoah Avenue.
I'm Andrea Gagan. I still swear to tell the truth. This is for 2647 Shenandoah Avenue. And this is the building. Although this is not, the solar panels that are proposed for the actual house are fine. Okay. And then I need to submit into the record, ordinance 64689 is amended by 64925, and ordinance 66098, the Fox Park Historic District ordinance. All right, this is the location. This is a, this shows where the, where the solar panels are proposed. Towards the bottom, as you see, those are the ones on the house, which we're okay with. The only thing is we asked that because the utility boxes for it have to be on the side, otherwise they have to have a giant sign there that they would be painted, but it is located behind the current electric box. The other ones at the top are on the garage, and some of those are the ones in question. Okay, this is a view of the garage from the street. We had spoken to the applicant, and we're okay with having solar panels on the west elevation, or west side of the roof, as it is not really visible, and it wouldn't, you might be able to see the edge of it, but that's about it. On the east side, the solar panels would be visible. This is just some context. It's context across Shenandoah. Let me go back here. Okay. Basically, because it is considered a non-historic structure, it is covered under new construction and though the garages and carports in new construction say that the garage and carport roofs should be set forth as in section 201. Under that is the roofing accessories, which says solar collectors shall not be visible from the street, which is why we denied the permit. The owner has appealed, and the alderman has submitted a letter. He hasn't actually, I don't think he'd actually seen the application, but he said, assuming the panels aren't very visible, that I'm fine with them. So, and we'll recommend the preservation board will return the denial. Sorry, he said that assuming the panels aren't very visible, then I'm fine with them, as basically what I said. The Cultural Resources Office, I was asking the Preservation Board to uphold this director's denial, as the east side panels will be visible from the street, which is now not allowed under Fox Park Historic District standards. And as I said, even though it's a recent construction, the new construction standards do not allow them either. So we are asking for you to uphold the denial.
Remind me again about what we have talked about for solar panels in general before?
Each historic district has different solar panels. This one's actually written into the ordinance. Some of them don't have specific standards for solar panels. The newer ones tend to, and this was a no visibility district. Sometimes they can be visible, but compatible, have to be compatible, and some don't have any really restriction on them.
Is there an adjective that modifies visible? Is it highly visible, barely visible?
Theirs actually says solar collectors shall not be visible from the street.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's it.
Okay, we have the appellants present. Let's hear from them.
For the record, my name is Todd Holbert. I am a solar design consultant with EFS Energy.
And I'm Chris Rico. I'm the homeowner.
And will your testimonies be the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a PowerPoint in here. I want to bring up a couple of things. We're not necessarily here to argue the fact that this is not visible, although it is barely visible due to the slope of the roof and the fact that the street level is considerably lower.
When you say barely visible, what do you mean?
Well, we'll show you from the photos. If you take a look at the photos in the package that was provided for you, you can see that the west side of that roof, the particular slope, and I've got several more from other vantage points, is not highly visible.
I can't tell from looking at our photo.
What's that?
I can't tell from looking at our photo whether or not somebody's standing in a hole or standing on top of a truck.
Yes. I have several photos in my PowerPoint that you'll be able to see it from several different perspectives. You know, we would like to talk about some remedial possibilities. Again, I'm waiting for the PowerPoint to come up. Also, for the record, I was not aware of the letter from the alderman. Would somebody please read that for the record?
Shut down the PowerPoint.
She did already.
It's up now.
Can't do because it won't let me.
Would you like me to read it, or would you like him to
Go
just
ahead
be
and read it.
provided? Okay. This says, I just spoke to Dan, that would be Krasnoff, the director. I wasn't aware of this item on the agenda. That's my fault. I haven't spoken to the homeowner, and I have not seen these plans. Assuming the panels aren't very visible or a total eyesore in parentheses, then I'm fine with them and would recommend the Preservation Board overturn the denial. I would point out that a number of our historic codes are now in conflict with the city's desire to encourage green, sustainable energy. Also, our new ordinance requires all new construction to be solar compatible. It's a larger discuss, but something we'll need to address. Good luck tonight, Jack. And that is the content of the letter, which is a public document.
Thank you.
We're going to try to restart the computer and hope that that.
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break while we wrangle with our technology.
You don't even have a window.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Our technology has caught up to our intentions. And proceed.
Next slide. This is the same layout that Andrea has already shown us, or that staff has already shown us. It is part of a sealed plan set for the installation of this solar. Again, here's photos. I have taken 3 walking down the sidewalk at eye level in front of the house on one side of the street, and across the street walking down the sidewalk at the same point. 3 of them as well, showing how much visibility we have. Now, if you go back 2 slides, please, Andrea. That is the east side of the garage roof. As you can see, because of the position, and this is probably from the sidewalk across the street, the most you would possibly see of those solar panels. The solar panels lie pretty much flat on the roof. Forward 2 slides, please, 3 slides. Oh, so we mount these onto rails. One next one, please. We mount these onto rails. The rails that we have proposed currently are the ones that are shown that are 2.44 inches in height. Part of the remediation that we would like to propose is to use a smaller rail, although we have to use more of them. Next slide, please. That will drop that down to 1.75 inches flat on the roof. It'll have virtually, you know, it's virtually flat with the roof. In addition, one more slide, please. We would also like, and excuse my drawing, this was fairly quick. We would also like to propose to put up a 12-inch, maybe a 2x12 across the front of the garage that would stick up approximately 5 inches and block out the view of the solar from the roof. Think of it as kind of a parapet along the front, if you would. We're looking for remedial issues here. Chris wants his solar in. He's trying to be green. He's trying to offset his carbon footprint. And
Maybe the RICO coat of arms on it.
yes.
I'll have to make one of those.
Yeah. So this is our proposal before you.
Is there anything else you'd like to submit for the record? Mr. Rico, would you like to add something?
Another possibility we had talked about was planting some trees along the front of the fence there so that they would just block the view.
And would you put the panels on them?
But I mean, like if you look at the roof, the panels will just still be angled with the roof. They'll just be sitting off the roof a few inches. I don't even know if you'd even really necessarily, from looking at it from the front, you'd realize what you were looking at, seeing it from the street. So.
Commissioner Killeen, you're all modern and green. Have you got questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mines?
What year was the garage built? That little.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it was something like 2000. I can't remember. So the house was originally one lot, and then the owner in 2016 bought the 2 adjacent lots and fenced it all in. I think the garage was either built then or slightly earlier than that.
Thanks.
Commissioner Richardson?
I think I'm good.
Alderman?
I might have a couple. So you're putting panels on the house, and then they don't care if you put it on one side of the garage, but you put it on both sides. I guess the question is, if you don't do both sides, is it not providing the electric that you're trying to get to?
Basically, yeah.
That is correct. We're going to lose just under 30% of the power production of the system by not being able to put the 9 panels on the east side of the garage.
Because ideally the panel should be facing south, but other than that, facing east is better than west, right?
Yes.
So, but the panels would lay flat on there, right?
Yes.
They won't be projected
Correct.
up.
They're laying flat and perpendicular to the roof. And offset about 3 inches from the roof.
Yeah.
That's assuming we use the lower profile railing, which will.
And if you put trees, wouldn't that, I'm just asking in case if I ever put some on my house. Wouldn't the trees block the sun and not make them be as efficient?
If you look at the photo, so there's trees on the east or the west side. So the west side only has 2 rows of panels on it. Or will only have 2 rows of panels on it, and that's just kind of adding a little bit. The west side or the east side is the one that has basically unobstructed view, and then on the house itself, there's going to be basically the panels will be tilted facing south, So like you said, it adds about 30% to the capacity of the system to be able to have the panels on the east side there. And I'm not entirely clear because like the house is fairly symmetrical, sitting in the middle of the 3 lots. So I'm not sure why one side would be okay, but not the other.
Okay, then you should cut your grass and clean up that area around the gravel. Because
That's actually a pretty old photo.
oh, very good. Okay.
Got it cleaned up that since.
Those are herbs. That's a kitchen garden.
No, it's not. It's overgrown. Plus
For rabbits.
plus the gravel can't be. Anyway, that's a different.
That's field greens.
It's not. Is that field greens? Do you plan on eating that?
No,
Plus, you shouldn't grow it
it's
in
for
the.
the animals.
You shouldn't grow it in the area with it.
Commissioner Robinson, do you have questions? Do you have a preference among the remediating that they talked about?
Does it equal a net zero?
Yeah, not quite. It's getting close, but we can't put any more panels up. That's the problem.
Ameren won't actually let you do more than, I think, 90% of your utility
About
usage.
92%, yes.
Yeah, so Ameren will not let you go net zero. Although I plan on trying to increase the efficiency of my house after the fact to bring it closer to that.
So are you at 92% now?
I believe we are.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the proposal or the numbers with me, but I believe we are at about 92%.
Anybody else have questions? Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial and allow the installation of the solar panels on the east side of the garage roof.
Second.
A second from Mr. Vines and Mr. Vaquero.
Okay, discussion, Commissioner Richardson?
I think as during our break, Alderman Vaccaro mentioned that the city just passed a new ordinance that is encouraging or requiring new construction to be solar ready. I think there is a Missouri statute that says you have a property right to solar energy, and I think considering this is a garage and it's not really that visible, I think we should overturn it.
May I ask a question for clarity?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson, was your motion to overturn and allow as presented or as originally submitted? Because it seems like they're slightly different.
Oh, as originally submitted.
Okay, thank you.
So does that mean it's with the shorter mounting brackets and it's got the fascia board?
I was not going to require the fascia.
We're not, but the mounting brackets?
Would you like the mounting brackets?
No, I'm not, I'm just.
I
I'm
didn't,
not
honestly, I
campaigning.
didn't. No.
Whatever, okay.
Really close to measure the difference. Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioners, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Alderman Vaccaro, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
That is 5 yeses. Your appeal is upheld, as stated. Okay, Commissioners, thank you for your attention to that matter. Next up is an appeal at 5260 Westminster Place.
Bethany Moore of the Cultural Resources Office, and I swear to tell the truth.
Excellent.
All right, this is 5260 Westminster Place. It is an appeal of the director's denial. This is the front of the house. Oh, yes. Oop, thank you. I would also like to read into the record Ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925, the enabling ordinance, Ordinance 56768, Central West End standards, and the PowerPoint in this presentation. And here you go. Thank you.
It is.
All right. So this is the location of 5260 Westminster Place on the block. I would also like to enter the agenda into the record. Okay. So this is a appeal of the director's denial. The work was done without a permit. The roof on the front porch in this picture was replaced. The replacement material was GAF timberline, and I have a better picture of it. This is the location as seen from the street. Here are some context pictures of across the street, and then looking along Westminster Place. So here is a comparison. The one on the left, the wood shake look, is the timberline shingles in the color hickory, and that is what was put on the roof. And the standards state that original or historic roofing material shall be used wherever the roof is visible. Materials that replicate the original may be used if the original or historic material is unavailable and the substitute material is approved by the Cultural Resources Office. What is approved by the Cultural Resources Office is a GAF slate line shingle, which would be the one on your right because it replicates slate. And we usually ask for it in a slate gray color. If this project had come to us before a permit was applied for, or before the work was done, we would have let them know at Hotspot that this is what is approved, is the GAF slate line and not the timber line. So with that being said, the Cultural Resources Office recommends that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the application to retain the replacement shingles as they are not a substitute material approved by the Cultural Resources Office and therefore does not comply with the Central West End Historic District standards.
Questions on this side?
No. Is there a before and after picture of the house?
I don't have one, no.
Oh, you did?
I don't have one in the PowerPoint.
Questions on this side? Thank you, Ms. Moore. Okay, let's hear from the appellants, please.
For the record, my name's Mark Wade, and I'm the homeowner.
Is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, then, proceed.
Just by way of history, this was a fiasco that took a long time to take place.
That's the worst kind of fiasco.
We've been noticing settling on our porch and wood rot on the pillars of the porch for a couple of years, so I called in an expert to look at it, and one of the things that they pointed out was that we had chronic clogging of the gutters, and water was getting behind them and falling down where it shouldn't go. And so one of the remedies that they suggested was a leaf filter system. So I purchased that and that was in late October and early November. I brought in the installers, and they proceeded to destroy my gutters. In the process of doing that, and I have photographs of that as well, I just didn't submit them because I didn't think it was going to matter. They also broke off the last row of shingles in many places along the roof line. And once they did that and I made them stop, I brought in the contractor who took a look and said, you know, we can replace the gutters, but without that last row of shingles being congruent all the way along the roof line, water will, through capillary effect, go under the shingles and behind the gutter, and you're going to have the same problem. So it was a necessary thing to replace the shingles on that roof. So I gave them the green light. He made a proposal to me. I assumed he would get a permit. He did not, as I found out later after the fact. They stripped the shingles off and put new ones on. My marching order to them was to replace the material with like material as close as they could match it. We liked the color, just for one thing, but we also were going by what I understood to be the district standard of where repair is not possible, and I was told it was not. Materials should be replaced in kind. New materials should match the existing in type, size, shape, profile, and material. That's what I was going by. So when Yarrick, the contractor, brought me the proposed shingle material, I gave him the green light and he put it up. And so that's sort of the story. It's on there, and 3 weeks later I got a letter from the Cultural Resources Department saying that we need to cease and desist. It was a done deal by then. So what I'm coming to you with is just the notion that I was trying to follow the replace with like kind material and make it look is nearly exactly the same as it did before this. And I would also tell you that the shingles that were on the roof, the first layer, those have been there for minimum 25 years and probably more like 35. I've owned the house for over 20, and that was not nearly a new roof when I moved in. Secondly, there was a second layer of the same kind of roofing material, brown square shingles underneath the first layer that was arguably 25 or 30 years old as well. So that porch has had brown roof shingles on it, asphalt shingles, for probably longer than most people have been alive in this room. So it's changing the color and changing the style. I mean, I guess that's sort of why we're here. If that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do, but I don't feel like that's necessary.
What about the permit thing?
Yeah, that's a big disappointment. I trusted the contractor to take care of that, and he didn't. So once we got the letter, I panicked and sent him down to the city hall to get one.
And we said no.
Well, right, that's why we're here today. The other thing I would tell you, if you can put those pictures back up, the next door neighbor, their house, much larger, gabled and dormered roof, has timberline shingles on it. Okay. Yes, here are the before and after photos that I submitted to Mr. Krasnoff, if anybody would like to look at them.
If you'll just give those to Adana down there, she'll label them as an exhibit for the file.
I was just making the point that the house next door to me has a roof that's less than 10 years old with timberline shingles on it. So there was no reason for me to believe that that was a no-no.
Although if the contractor had applied for the permit, you would have known
Correct.
about the no
Yep.
part. Okay, commissioners, is there anything else you'd like to submit for the record, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners on this side, questions? Commissioner Robinson? Alderman?
Any letters of support from the neighborhood association?
I didn't even think to do that, but I can most certainly get them.
Okay.
I'm sure I can.
Okay.
It's a pretty house.
Thank you.
It's a gorgeous house. Commissioner Killeen, have you got a motion?
Here's first, and then I'm.
Okay.
Here they are.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Patriotic. Yeah, I like the bunting.
So this is the new one? Mr. Chairman, I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial with the stipulation that the appellant produce a letter of support from the Neighborhood Association for this solution.
The Richardson Compromise. That is extraordinary, commissioners.
I just thought about myself.
Actually, we could call it the Vaccaro Compromise because he has been drumming this into our heads.
But it
The
lacks the second.
Vaccaro-Richardson Compromise, which then sounds like something that I forgot in a history exam.
Of 2020.
Of 2020. Commissioners, any discussion on this? Yeah,
That was my motion.
yeah.
Did I get a second? I don't know.
I
Yeah.
seconded it.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard you second it.
I
You
didn't
certainly
hear
nodded
it.
your head at me. Discussion? Okay, then. Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaccaro, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
That is 5 yeses. The appeal is upheld. Thank you for your patience.
With condition.
With condition.
Yeah.
I guess we hold on to these as evidence.
And they go back to Donna.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, commissioners, we are skating through this as if we were blues forwards. Calling 2743 Gravois.
Bethany Moore, Cultural Resources Office. I swear to tell the truth. I would like to submit into the record the PowerPoint, the agenda, and this presentation, Ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925, the enabling ordinance, and Ordinance 66098, Fox Park standards. All right, this is 2743 Gravois Avenue. This is an appeal of the director's denial. This building was built without a permit in Fox Park. This is the location of the lot. Although it does not show up on here, there is a building on the alley, which is the main business, and then this additional building is more towards the right corner. Neither one of them show up in this, but as you can see, the footprints of the other buildings, there are historic buildings on either side that go right up to the street line on Gravois.
That's fine.
And this is a picture from the street of the existing work building on the left, and then the building that was built without a permit on the right. And these are some buildings across the street for context. Looking directly across the street. And then a picture of the historic buildings directly up on the street on both sides. And then I'll go back. Okay. So the Fox Park Historic District standards have a section dedicated to new construction. The biggest thing for new construction in the Fox Park standards is that it must be based on a model example. There is no model example for this building. Along with that, from there, it outlines site, mass, scale, proportion, ratio of solid to void, facade material and material color, all of which this building does not comply with. So it is non-compliant in all of those areas. That being said, the owner has had contact with us, and he has said that he is willing to work with our office to make some facade changes to make it blend in better with the historic district. It still will not be compliant per the standards, but he is willing to work with us on that. Based on these preliminary findings, the cultural...
Just out of curiosity, what would you consider to be blending into the neighborhood more?
We were going to try to work with making some changes to the facade as far as adding some windows, trying to add some cornice and detail, trim boards, painting the garage door a darker color so that it looks more historic, because it's not a historic garage door. The building is non-compliant. It was built without a permit, and therefore we didn't have a comment. We weren't able to make any comments before the building was completed. So although we can't fix site, the massing and the alignment, and the solid to void, the windows would help a little bit, as would the trim and the darkening of the door to make it less obvious.
No, you could use the Llewellyn doors.
I guess that's an option, although non-compliant.
Questions for Bethany?
Bethany?
Yes. I do not have anything in writing from the neighborhood, but I did speak to a neighborhood representative, and they are not happy that their standards for new construction were not followed, and they wanted to make sure that this came to the preservation board, and that was made aware, that they were not happy, that their standards were not being followed for new construction in terms of this building. With that being said, the Cultural Resources Office recommends that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial to retain the commercial building built without a permit, as it does not comply with the Fox Park Local Historic District standards.
Okay, and you've got a question for her?
And tell me if I'm out of, but wouldn't we be better off
holding this and bring this back up next month, after they have a chance to talk to you, might have a change of motion in a sense. You know, if they go through and you know, you have, so where you have all your recommendations in there, where you would approve it based off of them doing certain things. As it stands, I probably most likely agree with you guys to deny it.
Well, I spoke to the neighborhood, and they did want it to come to the Preservation Board. They felt that it should come to the Preservation Board since it doesn't meet their standards.
Well, I guess what I was asking, you were stating that you were working with the owner to make some changes. And I guess what I'm asking is, if they work with you and make those changes, are you more likely to approve it than not?
Who's speaking now?
I'm Dan Krasnoff, Director of Cultural Resources. I swear to tell the truth with my right hand. Obviously, it's within the preview of the board to table the matter until the next meeting, or to make a motion to table the matter per more staff consultation with the applicant. And if that's the decision that you all make, we will carry that out. You obviously also have the option to approve this or to deny it and make stipulations to any decision that you choose.
I just have a question, if I may, for the
For whom?
For the CRO staff. If we were to uphold your denial, what's the recourse now? Is that they have to demolish it?
They can. The next step is they can appeal to the court. Correct.
Right. They can. You know, the appeal for a construction permit, if the Preservation Board denies it, is to circuit court. Obviously, this is a building that was constructed without a permit, so we are not the only city agency that will be reviewing it. And I don't know if we have had. I don't think we've had any conversation with building commissioner or the plan examiners over at City Hall as to their evaluation of the building. But conceivably, if they cannot get a demolition permit for this, it would seem like that would be one of the resources that could happen. This is a pretty rare occasion, as you can imagine, to have a building constructed with no building permit. There are cultural resources only permits that sometimes happen, but to have the whole building built with no building permit is highly unusual. So we're to some degree in some uncharted waters here, I'd say.
Okay, let's proceed to hear the appeal. Thank you very much. Okay, is the appellant present? Come forward. Good afternoon, and thank you for your patience. Tell us who you are.
Well, thank you for your time. I'll tell the truth.
Okay, and your name?
My name is Amir Saki.
Okay.
And I've been the owner of St. Louis Motor Company for the last 21 years in the city of St. Louis. And the need for that building arose, well, last year, I think wintertime, washing cars outside. And it's just one of those scenarios where I washed the car myself. And it was a pretty cold day. It was not as cold as to freeze the water, but then came out and slipped because somehow the temperature dropped, and from there I decided, you know, we got to do something where we can have a building. And so, you know, I'm not bringing any electricity or plumbing to this building, just a shed, you know, just to take the car in and kind of wash and clean and whatnot. Instead of, I have some pictures that I submitted, you know, other car lots are doing on the street, blocking the streets, whatnot. So that was one reason that we needed that building. Secondly, theft. I have a pretty big lot, bigger than I think any other lot on Gravois, and I usually carry only about 12 to 13 cars, so I have a lot of space there, as opposed to others, you know, who have cars being parked on the street. Anyhow, the battery's getting stolen, so I have to get all the batteries out of my cars and store it somewhere, so I needed a storage, so I store them in there. Thirdly, airbags, mostly to Hondas and Honda Civics and Honda Accords, year model 2016 and up. I had 2 cars that had airbags stolen out of, which is a lot of money. So also, whenever I have one of those cars in the inventory, I park them in the garage. And well, we went through the zoning hearing, and it was overwhelmingly approved by the zoning to have, you know, it's been approved by the zoning. Put it, and when we built the building, we thought that the best way to do is to replicate, to make the building look exactly like the existing one, and that's what we did. We used the same subtle colors and same fascia, you know, tan, so that it would not stick out like a sore thumb, and that is in the picture depicted. So what I'm here is requesting the Preservation Board to grant us the variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land and the building. And granting the variance will not, as you can see, negatively impact any neighbors, nor will it harm the property values in the neighborhood. Granting the variance will not impact traffic on the street. Granting the variance will not be detrimental to public safety or welfare. Also, I have submitted a statement from the neighboring business, adjacent business, which is Dutchtown Auto Body, who has no objection to having that building next to him. Basically, that's about it. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
So you're asking us to approve this by variance. What would the reason be for the variance?
Well, the reason being, if I'm looking at the alignment, what I'm looking for is a dimensional variance, because the setback and all that. I mean, I could not have had this building right up, let's say, 8 or 10 feet from the street, because then I would have to open up the fence and all that, and the fence is there to protect the cars, otherwise they go onto the road. It has happened previously, so I could not have built the building according to the setback laid by the ordinance. I don't know if that makes sense. However, I agreed to do whatever it takes to tweak the building, as the CRO suggested, that we can do the best we can.
And I guess my second question is one I asked several prior appellants. What is it about building a building that didn't suggest a building permit to you?
Okay, well, let me make a short story out of it. Well, someone suggested, since I'm not bringing any electricity or plumbing to the building, it would be just a shed, so would not need a permit. I know there was...
Are you related to this person?
No, I'm not.
Okay, because I was going to suggest domestic action.
No. No, I'm not related to that person at all.
Was this person a city official?
No, he's not.
A lawyer?
No.
A total stranger you saw on the street?
No, he's there, well, let's say friends of some contractors who do business, and he said, yes, he knows somebody who's a contractor and he can build, so that's...
You want to rat him out and tell us his name?
Well, his name is Mark.
Mark what?
Well, his last name I do not even know. Well, I know him, but I don't remember the Mark. He's one of the customer. Well, he's one of my customers.
Did you give him a good deal?
Pretty fair deal. He never had any complaints with the car, so.
You don't think he was punishing you?
And a repeat customer as well.
Okay. If he comes back, you know what to do, right?
Right.
Okay.
I have already spoken to him, but, you know, there's no recourse.
Okay. Questions for the appellant on this side?
No questions.
No.
Questions on this side?
Curious.
Did you have something you wanted to submit into the record?
Oh, yes. I thought you had. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, I was not even paying attention to what you told me. Okay. Well, I have 3 sets, and
Do you think that Mark is...
I would like to submit this for the record.
I think he's Mike Colleen's competitor. It's
Sorry.
Mark, unnamed Mark.
I apologize for the amateur hour.
No, this is fine. I'd ask if there's anything else you wanted to put into your appeal anyway. Mr. Colleen, did you develop a question?
I did. No, I have a motion though.
Oh, we have people.
Documents are on the way.
We have people here to testify.
Yes.
Did you bring those people?
These are for my support, my neighbors behind me, yeah.
And,
Here's what he submitted.
okay.
And this also includes the proceedings from the Board of Adjustment hearing.
Okay, yes.
Have you talked to your alderman?
I have called 2 times during the zoning hearing, or before that, I'm sorry, and there was no callback.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And I have left messages with her secretary as well. No callback.
Okay. Okay. Come on up. And come together unless you're going to testify against each other. What is your name?
Judy McGrath.
And what will your testimony be the truth?
Yes.
Your name, sir? And is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, I would say the truth. I live 2804 California.
Okay.
Just right behind the building, and what I can see, I'm here to support him. I was walking the other day up there, and I can see the car like is the one's more clean. He always tried to keep it clean. Actually, I saw him putting a trash can by the bus stop, and he's the one most to try to keep the area clean. And he told me if I can come today to support him about the building. So that's why we're here to support him. And she's my sister-in-law. She's here also with us to support him.
Ms. McGrath, anything you want to add yourself?
Sure, I just, with all respect to, like, I guess as a person that knows nothing about cultural design and preservation, I think it looks like a nice building. It looks like it kind of just blends in. Yeah, I frequently visit my brother-in-law in the area and a friend that lives over on California as well. And I drive that way frequently. I live in South City, and nothing about it particularly stands out as unsightly or unpleasant to look at.
If you built something though, you'd apply for a building permit, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't talk to Mark first.
Wow, sounds like no.
Okay.
How about Mark?
Anything else you all want to add? Sir, is there anything else you'd like to add for your appeal?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I have one.
I'm sorry, one question. Yes.
So, we built it without a permit. We don't know if it's on the right, built properly, that's not gonna fall over.
Foundation.
Has the building inspector come in?
Not our issue.
Architect.
Sorry, but that was in that file that the Board of Adjustment did find that it was, and they had Joe Klitzing, who's an architect, say that it was sound and.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, commissioners. Commissioner Robinson, have you got a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the application to retain the commercial building as it does not meet the requirements for new construction outlined in the Fox Park Local Historic District standards.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. Discussion? Commissioner Robinson? No
So-
permit doesn't comply?
No permit doesn't comply.
Alderman?
I would be more inclined to say table it until they have a chance to see if there's something they can work out, because if we,
Oh, the last time we saw something tabled, we lost all the freeholders.
well, yes, but that's not, but I'm just saying, to say, gee, you're gonna tear this down, doesn't seem, I understand it. but-
I don't know that tearing it down is in our purview either. The question is, does it comply with the historic district standards?
Right, but I had thought he had said, that the commissioner had said,
The only other option is if we uphold it, they would have to tear it down.
Did anybody tell Alderman Vaccaro that if we uphold it, they have to tear it down?
And what you had said was that would be the
Would you go to the microphone, please, sir?
That's it. I think Dan Krasnoff's where to tell the truth. As I said, I think we're in pretty uncharted territory here. It's pretty unusual to have a building built without a permit. Could one of the remedies be that the applicant is forced to maybe reconstruct it or something like that and lose the original building because they could not obtain permits for it? I guess that's possible. But at the end of the day, that's not something the Cultural Resources Office, the Planning and Urban Design Agency, or the Preservation Board has any control over. That sort of item would be in other city departments' hands.
So what happens if we uphold the decision? I'm just curious where it goes from there. So if we uphold the decision, what happens next? He would have to go to the 22nd Judicial? Or?
I assume we would send a denial letter to the building commissioner, who would then deny the permit. And where we go from there is not exactly clear to me, to be honest. That's something that I would think would might involve the city councilor's office. But at that point, it's speculation. Yes?
May I clarify? I think you're seeing that appeals of denials, the appellant may go to circuit court. I think you're also saying that you don't know if there's something that can be worked out between staff and the appellant at this time because it's just speculation.
Right. I mean, at this point, really, we're taking our cue from the Preservation Board. You've been told that in the staff's judgment, it does not comply with city ordinance. And as we've seen tonight, you have options. You can choose to uphold the director's denial. You can choose to overturn the director's denial. You can do either of those with stipulations, or you can choose to table it. And whatever you do, the staff will further, the staff recommendation is that we're just saying it does not comply with the standards.
I guess my question, and just help me with my, do you feel that if it were to be tabled, that you would be able to work out enough things to come back to change your decision?
If you all table this at the direction that the staff is to work with the applicant to see.
Let me point out that there is not a motion on the floor to table it at this moment, and we're discussing that motion.
Good point.
Okay, I mean, that was just help me make my...
Section 24.20.070 suggests that you could, should someone make a motion.
Which is not currently in order.
Correct.
Side? Nope. You look questioning. Nope.
You looking at me or him?
Already. You.
Me now. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I was probably looking over your shoulder.
Okay. I am curious to hear the answer to that last question, because that would have been my motion to table this thing. But you're not accepting questions in that regard right now.
If this fails, another motion will be in order.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Question? Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Alderman Vaccaro, do you vote yes or no?
No.
That is 3 noes, 2 yeses. The motion fails. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board table this agenda item and allow the, I just move that we table it for 30 days.
Second.
Until the next meeting or 30 days?
Till the next meeting.
Is there a second?
Got a question for the for council.
Now-
Do they have to
now these
waive
questions are
anything,
on.
or?
And I'll second that.
I would ask staff, but I don't believe the time deadlines extend to, the staff had a certain number of days to bring the appeal, to have the appeal heard, but Section 24.20.070 of the code allows for a continuation of this hearing to provide a full appeal on the record. But if staff has any further concern, I would offer that this is their time to make that, but I'm not seeing it.
So tabling's the same as a continuance.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I would have questions for Dan.
We don't object to a continuance as long as we're following the ordinances and we're avoiding any kind of rules that say if it passes a certain date, it's automatically approved, let's say.
Like in the case of the planning commission, but that is not the case here.
Right.
And it's certainly not prejudicial to the appellant.
Okay. Commissioner, Director Krasnoff, would you return to the podium, please? Alderman?
My question is still the same question. Do you think, in working with them, and I would encourage them to work with you, that there's things that you can do to this that would at least make you come back with a different motion or a different, not deny it by next time if they do stuff like she was saying with the facade and with the windows and a few other things?
Well, I certainly think there are things we could do in negotiation to make the design more congruous with the Historic District Ordinance. I don't know if we can make it apply to every single aspect. In fact, I'm pretty sure we can't. But considering that the neighborhood representative had asked that this be, it was their druthers to be considered by the board, I think a motion to table or a continuance and the staff work to see what's the best kind of design arrangement we can make with what we've got here, and then see where we are next month is, I think that would be a thoughtful course of action, if that's helpful.
That's helpful.
So what we will see next month, because this is continued, is this original recommendation. And your testimony would then reflect whether or not you had varied from that recommendation?
Correct. I mean, I'm reserving the right that we might have a different recommendation next month based on what those negotiations bring.
Okay.
I believe the hearing will be open, so the both parties can continue to add to the record.
Yep.
So, in fact, the appellant can continue to speak to the neighborhood and continue to speak to the staff.
Good. Clear on what we're doing? I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Vines, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Yes.
Commissioner Vaccaro, yes or no? 4 yeses, 1 no. This matter is continued until the next meeting. Commissioners, we have a director's report.
Please make sure to work.
They all were approved. We began the meeting
Our
with them.
testimony about that.
Yeah.
That? And then,
You've got that bad news look on your face.
oh, I have lots of joyful news today, I can assure you.
Okay.
What's yours? Oh, thank you. Nice comments. Oh, it's getting comments?
Yeah, I'm just reading the staff faces.
The real question is, let's see. I'm just not seeing it in the list. Oh, wait. 2020.
Oh, that's ours.
Do we get to subtract out technology time?
Actually, somebody said it'd be about 6:30.
Oh, no.
And Caitlin, I believe she weighed in at 6:45.
Well, maybe, you know what, you probably just put it on the desktop.
No, I mean, it's hideous.
I only wanted to hear what Bethany had to say.
Back to work.
Who's got Jack Carter's
Director's Report
email?
1/2020, there we go.
Is this, here it is.
Okay.
What exhibit's missing?
No, it's not. Jan, I have the mastery of the system. Never doubt it. Okay, I have only a couple of items for the director's report today, but they are substantial. Last month, I informed you all that I had received a demolition application, or the city had at large, generally, for the Queenie Tower building at Barnes Jewish Hospital. I reviewed that application and made the decision to approve that application. What you see here is a picture of Queenie Tower on the left, which was constructed in the 1960s. And on the right, you see a rendering showing BJC's plans for its future development from a number of years ago. Now, I realize that image is a little small. Sorry for that. But many of those BJC buildings, which were envisioned back in 2014, have been constructed now. Mostly the buildings on the left-hand side. They are in design work for the buildings on the right-hand side, and I anticipate those coming within the next year or two. There were concerns about the seismic capability of Queenie Tower. There was a desire to get that site available for the redevelopment. And based on that, and based on criteria in the ordinance, I approved this demolition.
Is that unusual?
For me to approve this demolition?
Approve a demolition of a contributing building, possibly a high merit one.
It is not entirely unusual, but it is somewhat unusual, I guess I would say.
What was the last one?
I'd have to go.
That's fine. I just wondered out of curiosity.
I'm sorry, did I miss it? Did you say it would be a high merit building?
No, I considered it a merit building.
Okay.
For the denial. If I considered it a high merit building, the board would have had to review it.
Is there a building permit in place for whatever's proposed to replace it?
There is not.
Okay.
That's the problem. We've had a prior example of a building at BJC, which was the 2 or 3 story building along Kings Highway where, Jan Cameron, we had a 2 or 3 story building along Kings Highway that was BJC, and I found in my library the architect of it, the book. Does this ring a bell? It was like maybe a women's hospital, a women's clinic, and BJC came here and wanted to tear that down, but they didn't have any immediate plans for it. And so the previous director brought that to us. I think it was Betsy, her regime. And then we denied it. It was brought to us, and they came back when they actually had plans. And my concern would be what Commissioner Vines is saying, that like you're not giving me warm fuzzies that there's any immediate plans for construction here.
No, well, I do not have, there are not construction drawings that have been submitted to the board. But I fully believe that the applicant, the owner, will be within the next 2 to 3 years building a building of substantial construction here, and I have confidence that that will take place.
Right, but we've had examples that 2 to 3 years is a long time. We've had St. Louis University be here before where they tear down the Peevely for something and it doesn't happen, and they tear down buildings for a law school addition and it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying what we ended up with over there isn't good, but why wouldn't we wait? And part of the Preservation Review District standards is that you're supposed to evaluate what's going to replace it, and you don't know what's going to replace it here.
Yes, I do. I believe a building of that scale is going to replace it, shown in the rendering.
Well, you just said scale, but that doesn't mean, I don't know material, that's...
They have a building program along Kings Highway that they are clearly executing as they move down the way. And the plan is for a building that will kind of bookend the Siteman Cancer Center at the northern end.
And I'm not saying that wouldn't be a good thing, but it seems like we're jumping the gun here. I mean, I don't understand why we need to tear down a building 2 to 3 years before they're going to construct a new building.
That's at the discretion of the director.
Okay.
Continue.
Next item. I said this would be director's report filled with substantial projects. The next building is one that I think probably folks have already heard about. This is a building at 2205 Lynch Street. This was denied for demolition by the Preservation Board in 2017 and 2018. It was judged to be a high merit building by the Preservation Board and per the staff recommendation, built in the mid-19th century. This building has slowly deteriorated over time, and ultimately, as you can see from the image on the left, the north wall of it collapsed last month. The picture on the right is a picture of it from August of 2014, when it was in much better condition. The owner of the building had sought that demolition. They had taken the decision to circuit court when the Planning Commission chose not to review the demolition either time, and that was in court when this collapse occurred. The building commissioners declared it an emergency demolition. I have, so it's really out of the Cultural Resources Director's hands once an emergency demolition is proposed.
Does that affect the status of litigation?
I believe that does, but I don't want to speculate, and I'm not sure what the latest is on the litigation with that.
Where?
Robert Hibbs is the attorney on that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not president, so I'm not going to make an announcement on his behalf.
I can provide a follow-up update to the board if
Great.
that's desired. I do have a couple of communications regarding this. One is from Tim Mulligan, and I'm going to read this into the record. It's not very long, I promise.
Did you see my head go up?
I saw your head go in rapt attention, I might add. Dear Mr. Krasnoff, I learned last week that the monthly board meeting of the Benton Park Neighborhood Association held on 20 January 2020 that the rear or north wall of the building owned by Miss Peggy Ladd, actually it's Tomachek Enterprises LLC, collapsed on or about December 24th, 2019. From Alderman Gunther's understanding of the situation, the mayor would be approving the emergency demolition of the structure. I want to make clear, the mayor does not approve emergency demolitions. That authority solely rests with the building commissioner. So that's an inaccuracy in the letter. As you know, we have tried very hard to solicit a developer for this property. While the wheels of democracy process this matter now, I wish to first thank the Cultural Resources Office staff and the Preservation Board for valuing this property as historically important and not giving in the owner's numerous requests for demolition. Second, while the city has a demolition by neglect ordinance, the penalty for this ordinance is clearly not adequate to dissuade a developer or wealthy property owner. I ask that you request and support the city's legislative body, the Board of Aldermen, to actively pursue increasing the fine from $500 to at least $5,000. Thank you for your good work and your attention to this request. If you have questions regarding this matter, you can contact me at my email address or phone number. So that's that. And then I have a communication from Bill Hart, apparently delivered by Alderman Dan Gunther, that I'd also like to read into the record. So this is Bill Hart speaking or writing. I learned yesterday of an emergency demolition order that the mayor signed at 2205 Lynch Street. I'll say it again, the mayor does not sign these orders. These orders come from the building commissioner exclusively. In addition to having experience with what is referred to as demolition by neglect in my work with Missouri Preservation, I also, as the former consultant to the owner of the property before coming to Missouri Preservation, have a bit of a personal history with the issues. When I was a private contractor working for the owner of adjacent property about 15 years ago, I informed her that if she wanted to eventually buy the property at 2205, she should think about reuse possibilities because it would be nearly impossible to get a demolition permit to tear down one of the neighborhood's oldest and most historic structures. Evidently, this owner has done little or nothing to preserve or stabilize the property since eventually acquiring the neighborhood property at 2205 nearly 8 years ago. As the director of the Missouri Alliance for Historic Preservation, a statewide nonprofit preservation advocacy organization, I believe this demolition sets a dangerous precedent for a neighborhood and the issue of demolition by neglect in general. I also believe the idea and claim that the owner is being unjustly put upon by the local authorities is completely disingenuous. The fact that this is a trial is being heard in the court of public opinion, thanks to Tony Messenger of the Post-Dispatch, is unfortunate, but the facts rather than the opinions being manufactured should be the basis for allowing the demolition of 2205 Lynch in St. Louis. And that's from Bill Hart. So I have received actually a demolition permit for this building because the building commissioner's goal is that the applicant pay for this demolition, not the city. I have told the building commissioner I do not intend to approve this demolition because it is an emergency demolition and not my purview to approve it. And he understands that. So this will not be signed off on by our office.
Great.
And I will not ask the Preservation Board to sign off on it.
Thank you. Questions on the director's report? Further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this concludes the business that I see on the agenda. Does anybody else have any business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion made to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners, for your patience.
Thank you.